I've got a treat for you. For those of you that have been to these conferences before, this is usually one of the top 3 rated sessions every year for 6 years in a row. So grab a seat, grab that last iced tea or lemonade, and we'll get rocking and rolling. I'm going to invite Craig Schneider and Ian Daniels up to the stage. I'll give them a quick intro in a second. But I want you to know why I do this session. So if we can kill the music, we'll get rolling here in a second. But the reason I put this session on the calendar every year, and I don't do that alone, I get help. But the reason we put it on the calendar every year is because a session like this changed my life. I think it was 16 years ago, but it's not worth doing the math. But I was at a conference, a pretty good conference, years and years ago, and at a break, this little that's why I named it Role Play Showdown. That's kind of what it was. It was unofficial. It wasn't formal. All of a sudden, these guys are like testing out their scripts, and what would you say to this? And they're just throwing the craziest rebuttals at each other, and they're overcoming it. And then I roll over, and I see 2 guys, and I'll tell you who, Curtis Johnson and Adam Hergenrother. Some of you have heard of them. If not, doesn't matter. Curtis Johnson just throws a grenade at Hergenrother and basically says, hey, I know you just sold my house in like 3 days, but honestly, it didn't look that hard, and because you did it so fast, do I still have to pay your whole commission? Okay, so some of us have heard that before. That's like not the most difficult script thing ever, but the response I heard changed my life forever. Literally. Hergenrother responds and goes, honestly, Craig, I'm kind of shocked at the topic of the call. I really thought you were calling to congratulate me and offer me a bonus. And I was like standing back here like, whoa, people say that stuff? You're allowed, like that's a thing you can do? And then he went on and on and on to talk about how he's worth every penny of his fee, and if they want him to take longer and be worse and charge more, he's happy to do that, but that wouldn't be in their best interest. And I literally just sat there and saw the confidence in his communication, the confidence in his value, and really quickly understood that I was never going to go back and do real estate the way I had been doing it ever again. And remember, I was driving around in the stupid yellow car with a really, really low number on the side. So that was beautiful news to my wife and my family and everything. So that's why I love sessions like this. What would you say? How would you communicate that? So one of the things we'll do, and we'll let these 2 guys loose. Ian is our team lead. Day to day in our office, our agents are working with Ian to go and lead generate, lead convert, client care, get the job done, repeat referral, make sure sales happen. And then you've heard a good bit from Craig, but Craig is from Rochester, and he's leading a brokerage, a lot of ways like a team, to the point that brand new agents are impressing everyone around here, setting crazy amounts of appointments, and generating amazing repeat referral, raving fan club type business. So these 2 guys, I hope, will do most of the talking, but I am happy to participate and share how I would communicate as well. So we can communicate, we can throw some at each other, or we're willing to take suggestions or questions from the crowd. The way you would do that is say, how are you responding to? What would you say to? And then we can either just do a quick singular response, or we can do a little bit of back and forth role play. But for the sake of time, it doesn't help to do.
So we spend an hour every week in our coaching world doing this with our clients and with our team. And the way that I kind of run those calls is by opening with like, hey, what is most valuable for you, right? So what is something that you're struggling with right now with communication? That could be with a client, that could be with a prospect, that could be with family, friends. It could be with anything, right? So that's what we want the next 30 to 45 minutes to be, is like, hey, let's use this time to help you with anything at all where you're just like, I really struggle with X, whatever that is. So we can have a mic, we'll have a mic that can be run around. But if anyone's got anything off the top of their head, just throw your hands up and we'll get a mic over to you, and then we'll just start talking through like, here's how we would answer that, and we'll kind of just role play and roll with that.
But I think it's also good to get in the right mindset whenever you're making calls, and just go into it with a very positive attitude. I tell my team, I go on all their first listing appointments with them, usually up to 3, and I always tell them I got this whole routine I go through before I get out of the car. just getting pumped and getting excited about, I have an opportunity to talk to somebody. And you should be doing that every time before you get on the phone, is just getting excited about, I get an opportunity to talk to these people, not I have to make phone calls. Does everybody get the difference there? You're getting an opportunity to talk to people that want to talk about real estate. So you should be excited about that opportunity, and you should bring it. You should bring everything you have.
In the early days of Hammer and Expireds, we had people that would wear a hat or put on a glove. They would like take on this confident, excited persona. It was like playing a part ethically, but it was effective. All right, who's got something that you'd like to hear how one of these guys would reply to? NAR, sign in a buyer rep, price reductions. Yes, Teresa. Okay, do you have a specific scenario you want to hear a response to, or you just want to know how they would call you and tell you that you need to lower your listing price?
Yeah, okay, I can be the seller, and I've been on the market for, well, I mean, I'm in Austin, so you can laugh at my numbers.
20 years.
But I've been on the market since, spring, and it hasn't sold yet.
Who wants it?
I guess it's either price reduction or I'm taking it off the market for the season. What am I doing?
Ring, ring. Are you going to be the customer, Teresa? I know you won't be easy. Can someone else please be the customer?
Hello? Oh, hey, Craig.
Hey, Teresa, how you been?
I mean, okay. Are you bringing me a buyer?
Well, the market has not been in our favor. What we've done, and we talked about it originally when we got on the market, that this is a different market than what we were experiencing a few months ago. I think it's time that we do some type of adjustment to the price, as we discussed earlier when we first met.
Like, reduce the price?
Well, I think, that's what we're going to have to do, Teresa, to get this home sold. Now, it's completely up to you, as we discussed as well, but I know that you're in a position where you are ready to move on to that new home, and I want to make sure we make that happen for you. And if we just continue doing what we've been doing, which is staying at a consistent price, we're not going to be able to get you there.
Well, I mean, like, I know you said this, but what are you talking, like, how much are you talking? Like,
well,
what price is going to sell this house? I'm tired of keeping it clean.
Well, this is our first price adjustment, so
Okay.
I think we're going to have to come out of the gate with something that's going to make people want to re-energize the market and get some activity over there and get you some new blood in your home.
Okay, but I heard we didn't have to pay a buyer agent commission anymore. Like, it's different than when we signed this listing agreement. Can we just maybe move the money around so we do the price reduction, but we don't pay the buyer's agent, and then I still make the same amount of money, right?
Yeah, I think it would be advantageous to look at the offers that are coming in and see what our best offer is. Depending on what they come to the table with. If they came back at a price with a buyer agent at the price we're listed at right now, would you still be comfortable with it?
Yes.
So I think we have to wait and see what the offer that is presented to us, in your best interest. I have your best interest at stake, Teresa, like I always have. We're going to look at each offer that comes in and not make a decision just based on if they're bringing an agent into the deal or not.
Well, I can't wait to get that part where we're looking at offers that come in. So I guess if you're saying what we need to do to get there is to reduce the price, I guess I don't really have a choice but to listen to you.
I didn't catch that last part, Teresa. What did you say?
I said I don't really have a choice but to listen to you. So send the paperwork.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, you don't have a choice but to listen to me. So, the reality is I want to get this house sold for you, and unfortunately, this market that we're in right now is just not in our favor. And at the end of the day, I want you to be satisfied with the end result. And right now, our biggest focus is getting you onto your new destination. And I think
for the sake of time, let's cut it. But you see what
I
Craig
want to
is-
add something too.
Yeah.
So
You see what Craig's doing though? He's talking about her goal. Not that the situation sucks, because it does. It's not his fault. It's not her fault. It's just what it is. Okay? So Ian's going to add something. I'll add something quick. And then if you have another one, raise your hand and Jeremy will find you with the mic.
So I think it's important in these situations where hopefully you've had some of these conversations in the initial consultation. So you're going to pull it back to that, right? So you're going to just say something along the lines of, hey, Teresa, remember when we first sat down together and we decided on the price? We decided this was going to be an aggressive price that we were going to go for, correct? Yes, correct. We also talked about how we're constantly going to be marketing or monitoring the market and figuring out, hey, where are we today? What's your home worth today? Because it's probably going to be different a month from when we first met, or 6 weeks, or 2 weeks, even a week. It's going to be different. So we need to make sure that we're constantly analyzing and updating what we're doing based on what we're seeing on the current market conditions. Wouldn't you agree? And hopefully that would be something where she's going to be like, yeah, you're right, we did talk about it. That helps.
And Craig referenced that. He said, remember as we talked about earlier, there's a script to set expectations for this, and I'll give you it really, really fast. For those of you that just joined Regs, this stuff's all in the listing course. And for whoever won the Choose 3 yesterday, this is one of your options to choose this breakdown. It's called price elasticity. So in the initial consultation, you would say, David, are you familiar with the term price elasticity? No. Great. Most consumers aren't. Basically what it means is the market is always moving. The value of your property is going up and down all the time. Your neighbor buys a loud dog. Not good. The city decides to rip up the water main out front. Not good. They announce they're building $2 million homes a block over. Very good. Right? So the market is always moving. My guarantee, David, is I'm going to sell your house at the top end of that range. But the range does move from time to time. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page now that if, in fact, it moves up in the future, we're going to push up. We may end up selling it for more than we even ask. If it moves down, we may need to discuss meeting the market where it is and making an adjustment down. Does that make sense to you, David? And if we have either of those conversations down the road, you'll remember the conversation and we can make a quick action choice to protect you, your family, and your finances. Great.
And one thing that we do, especially in a market that you're starting to see a shift in, is we're going to make sure we're setting really good expectations up front. So we give our clients three options to choose when we're at the listing appointment. So we're already pre-setting up when price adjustments are going to be made. So we're saying, hey, there's 3 different ways we can do this. If you are in a situation like a divorce or a fire sale, I suggest that every 7 days we're doing a price adjustment. If you're kind of, hey, I want to get it sold, we're excited about getting it sold, then we probably should be doing that about every 14 days. But if we're just feeling it out, if I can sell the house, I'll move. I don't need to sell the house, but like I'm just trying to feel the market out, then we should still be doing a price adjustment about every 21 days. So we've already got them to tell us which version of that they want. And then as a good agent, you're going to put that in your calendar, and on that date, they're already expecting your call. Sometimes if you miss that date, if you've done such a good job of setting an expectation, the client will call you and say, hey, we're supposed to be doing a price reduction today. That's a great, obviously, call to get, right? So the reality is you can control that. If you're having problems again and again, fix it. Come up with a good expectation or set a good expectation so you don't have that problem come up again and again and again. So.
One final thing, and then we'll move on, is on our team we do kind of a pricing council type of thing. So every single Thursday for properties that are going live, myself, Robert, who's our property marketing director, Jeremy and John, who are both our marketing specialists, we get together and we figure out what's the right price for a home. This benefits our clients long term because we're also discussing homes that might not have sold immediately, right? So they're able to set the expectation that every single Thursday our team gets together and we're analyzing every property that we have on the market plus new properties that are going live. So if we're going to have a conversation, they're already knowing it's probably going to come on a Thursday. So when Jeremy calls them and if there is a pricing change that happens, not a surprise and not a shock.
And more authority with that number. Go ahead.
Well, I have a situation right now where I do have sellers who are going to be ready. We are working on the listing right now. However, the question that they have is, looks like their previous agent, when they bought the house, did not do a good job and did not let them know that the property sat in a PID. Now, a problem is...
Sat in a what?
In the PID. Public Improvement District.
PID.
Now, he says, I already overpaid, and I tried to tell him, run those numbers 2 years ago when he bought the property, and he almost, to his surprise or his shock, he paid 72K over.
Yeah.
And
2 years ago, that was popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now he wants to sell the house, and I told them this is going to be a range. At this point, he says, when is the right time? And I told him exactly what you had said this morning, that whenever you think your time is right to bring this, house on the market, that's the right time. So he is getting ready, but he is kind of skeptical if that range is going to be falling a bit low. At this point, he says, how many, even if I put in updates that you have suggested, which sound to be realistic updates, what do you think the number would be? And I've given him an estimate. He is right now on the fence again.
What would you like some communication help on specifically?
So say, for example, I told him that, let's meet as soon as we finish the updates. So the fencing is done, we are waiting on the color.
Is it about pricing it accurately?
The pricing, the pricing.
So without knowing all of those details,
Yes, sir.
at the end of the day, you're going to need language that says, this is the number regardless of any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's going to be some version of, hey, Mike, I'm thrilled that you've made a maximum effort to maximize the value of your home. Based on current market conditions, the highest reasonable number that I believe we can achieve, and by the way, I guarantee you we'll sell it over the average price and under the average time, so I don't think anyone else would even get here, is going to be 475.
Yeah.
I know you were hoping for more like 510, but that's going to be the accurate number, and I'm just not confident I could get you more than that. Does that make sense to you?
Okay.
And if he says, no, I'm not doing it for any less, then say, hey, I'm just going to back out of the process. I'm not going to move forward when I'm not confident I can achieve that for you. And what's Mike going to do at that point?
Well, at that point, he doesn't have any answer because I gave him the same range,
Yep.
and he says, that sounds good, but right now he's again on fence. He's like, I'm not sure if the house will sell at that. I was
Which
like,
means it might not be the right time for
He
him.
might not be motivated
Yeah.
enough.
Right? He might need more motivation, or he might just, like, you can ask him, like, one popular question that we ask folks. Normally we would ask this in like a rental situation, somebody that's renting. But you can just tell them, like, hey, in 6 months' time, if you're still in this same home, like, is that acceptable to you? Like, are you okay with that? And the answer
no,
might
he's
be no.
not.
Yeah.
He's
And
not even
And he's going to
buy.
verbalize that, and then you get to go back
Gotcha.
and double down on, then here's the right price, and here's the right strategy, so to make sure that you're not in the home in 6 months' time.
Sounds good.
Well,
Thank
I
you,
think
sir.
this goes back to what Todd was just saying, from the last call. It's so important to know their motivation. So we always talk about, what's their why. So as a senior agent or senior person who's been doing this for a while, you're like instantly, that's the first thing you always ask the agent, the person that's asking you a question. Well, why are they moving? Like, because that's the important piece that you can leverage. So, if he's got to go and he's moving to spend time with his son who just had a grandbaby, there's probably some leverage there. So it's like, well, how much is that going to cost you in time away from your family that's really important to you, and not seeing your grandchild grow up, So you connect them back up to that, and then you find out how motivated they are. And if they're not motivated, you're never going to convince them to do it. And if you do, it's going to be short-lived, and you're probably going to pay the price in the long run, to be honest.
There's 1,000 ways to figure out motivation for people, but one of the ways that we do it, that we learned from a coaching group that we were a part of, it's called the ultimate scenario.
Yeah.
And it's figuring out, you go 7 layers deep, 7 levels deep on what somebody's core motivation is. And you ask questions in certain cadences and ways, but basically you take an answer. So if we were to role play, if you can be your seller and you can say, hey, Mr. Seller, like, what is it that's important to you about getting your home sold?
Well, I need to move from this place to a good place which has a good IST.
Okay, awesome. So I hear what you're saying. So what is it that is important to you about being in a really good school district?
A nice home, which is more updated one, this seems to be not so much working out for me and my family at this point.
Okay, so is it the updated home that's more important or the school district that's more important?
Probably it would be safe to say both.
Okay, great. I love that. So what is it that's kind of really key and kind of valuable to you and makes you want to have something more updated? Are you wanting to host people, or are you just wanting to not have as much maintenance? Like, what is it that's the most important thing to you about that?
More space.
Okay. And what's the reason that you want to have more space?
We have a business, we have a family-run business for interior decoration, and right now it's not sufficient.
Cool.
The house is not sufficient enough.
Got it. So we would keep going, right? Because you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper. But even just in that really short example, we went from, I want to have a new home and move because of the school district, to I want to have a new home because I have a family business and we need space to be able to
And what
grow
you're
and
going to do
stuff.
with that is you need to price the house accurately so we don't kill your business.
Right.
You see the connection you're going to
So
make?
now once you get deeper and deeper, now you can really pull on, okay, these are the main reasons that they're wanting to do this, so let's make sure we're reminding them of that, because they will forget that conversation. So you need to remind them of that when you're having these conversations.
And it always starts at a surface level answer, and when you get 5, 6, or 7 levels deep, 90% of the time, the motivational factor is going to be relational. So if you don't get to something relational, you're not there yet. More space is not the answer. It ends up being more space for the baby so we can provide a life that my parents weren't able to provide for me. Whoa, that's different than more space. That's different than another bedroom. Okay, go ahead. I know you've been dying. We keep talking.
I feel like I got a real seller here, so I want to,
Yeah, close.
But on a serious note, another thing that I've learned from actually the regs group about this particular scenario is to kind of, if they're locking up on you and not moving forward, because sometimes that'll work great and sometimes it won't, is to move it to more of a fantasy world, right? And ask them some questions. Well, in a perfect world, let's go down that path a little bit, and then see if they're not even, if they're so like locked up that they won't even go down that avenue. So like, if the perfect thing happened, would you move forward? And if they say no, you have a totally unmotivated buyer, and you can move on. Like, I mean, that's reality.
Should move on.
Right. Yeah, you should. Right. So, I mean, sometimes we need to do that because we don't go down that path. We don't get an understanding of, would this like if I brought you the perfect deal at the perfect price, would you buy it? If they say no, how are you going to convince them to do something, right? So that's where you kind of go with that kind of client. Sometimes you have to kind of see where it goes. So.
And an easy way to get them into fantasy world is to say, if I could wave a magic wand and then fill in whatever scenario you want to, and that gets them thinking outside of the box. Yep. Something else, while I'm waiting for anyone else who has the next role play, I think also when it is not the right time for them, or it doesn't make sense, or they bought 2 years ago and they are completely underwater, whatever the situation is, what a powerful trust builder to be the one to tell them, hey, I don't think it makes sense for you, right? Like, I'll follow up with you monthly and see how things change, but right now it's going to add more stress to your life if they don't have to get out. And so they're going to trust you. If you're the one with much to gain from their sale and you're telling them to wait, sometimes that is really valuable.
Huge.
And I got 2 questions. Who here has bought something and lost money on it?
Yep.
Right? And who here has gone to a car dealer like with the vision of buying a particular car and found out it was way more than you thought and you still bought it? So like the reality is I think sometimes we think our client is thinking a way that's not really accurate. So you have to kind of take yourself out of the picture sometimes.
That is such a massive point that I'm going to take probably the rest of our time because no one's hands are up. But your point is what happens is the agent takes ownership for their equity. And that's not you. That's not on you. Our industry lately is taking ownership for the market. We don't control the market. I like to think I can drive a market, the market for this house. That's part of our training too, is creating a market of one. But that is not on you. You need to deliver the facts in an eloquent, honest, ethical, clear, compelling way, and then help them make a wise decision. It's not your job to create equity out of nothing. Now, we want to create as much equity as we can, but it's not your job to get them out of their jam that you didn't get them in necessarily. Do what you can, but that you don't own that. Go ahead.
I think we should help those that are new to the online lead gen world, and so Ian and I will role play a call. I'm the buyer that filled out your website, and you're calling me.
Lovely.
As a bulldog.
I am the captain now.
Ring, ring.
Hello? Who is this? I literally had to step out of a meeting because you've called me 3 times in a row. Did somebody die?
I hope not. And hope
My
nobody
gosh.
died. My name's Ian. I'm with DallasHomeRealty.com. You'd actually.
You called me 3 times in a
I
row.
did. Yeah, I
Dude.
did. And here's the reason: the commitment that I have to make sure I reach everybody is way better than the industry standard, who normally wouldn't have even called you once. So I called you 3 times because you signed up online. I know you said you're in a meeting, but you signed up online like 30 seconds ago.
I just did right before I went into my meeting.
Curious what's going
Time
on.
out, time out, time out, time out. Just a 20, just a 20. This is not normal. This is Terry messing with Ian and Ian messing with Terry.
Also, I have said that to people on the phone.
But the wording isn't that different. The tone is a little schmucky. But
This is mine and Terry's relationship.
what Terry is saying is part of our process at times with certain lead sources is if they don't answer, we'll hang up and call back, and we'll hang up and call back again. And some of you are like, ugh, gross. But if somebody wants to make a massive life decision and volunteers their information to you, would it be appropriate for you to say, I am completely committed to contacting you and helping you with what you need help with? So we've been doing this for years and years and years. If you want to finish the role play, you can. But for years and years and years, we've been doing this. And only one time do I know of that somebody was still really ticked off after that response of, hey, if now's not the best time, we can talk again later. But our commitment is to follow up with anyone that requests any information from us, especially with something as important as buying or selling a home. And you had left your information on our website just a bit ago. Like, okay, that's intense, but thank you. Would it be helpful to know that we're going to offer the same level of intensity when it comes to finding you a great home and negotiating it for it? Yes, it would be. Thank you for holding the mic up. Okay.
So what's great there was I knew something was coming because as soon as he got the mic, his face lit up like the Phillies.
No doubt. When he requested
just
the
like
mic.
the Phillies had won the World Series, which they're not going to because they got knocked out, but my Yankees still can. You're welcome, Terry.
It's just hurtful. It's just hurtful. It's just hurtful.
Can I add something to the double dial or the war dialing or the triple dial?
Bulldogging.
There's a couple things I'd like to add to this because everybody's like, well, I would never do that. And the reality is you should do it. And the reason is number one, as consumers, they have been trained to not answer the phone anymore, right? Who answers their phone? Does anybody answer their phone anymore? You answer your phone like just for a number you don't see, right? Okay, well. Even realtors, though, I mean, nowadays we're not answering because we get so many telemarketer calls, right? So it's so much spam. Do the spammers call twice in a row? Oh, well, you guys got high-paid spammers in your area. Most of the time, not in our market. So typically, that person's willing to pick up that second phone call. And the reason it's valuable is because if you don't do it, you're going to do what? You're going to call them back the next day, and they still don't have your number, and you've called them once, and they're still not going to answer your call. So all you're doing is extending it out by doing that. So you're best off doing the double dial. We call it double dial text. We do 2 dials, and then we'll call ourselves out. We'll say, that was me. I just called you. Please let me know, is there a better time for us to reach out? So.